Listen.
And when I first started racing, I was only 17 years old, so you had to be 21 at that time. So my buddy, Billy Calder, he was very artistic, and he lettered my jalopy, and he also made me a phony identification that made me 21 years old. And because the kids in school, we were racing in Gardena, the kids in school would have known that I wasn't 21 years old, they would have snitched on me and everything. But anyway, he used to call me Parnelli, and he teased me about a little girl at school that had freckles and everything, and her name was Nellie. So he used to tease me about that. And he's the one that called me Parnelli all the time because of it. So when he lettered my car, he put Parnelli on it. And we spell it P-A-R-N-E-L-L-I now, but originally he made it P-A-R-N-E-L-L-I-E. He changed it to an Italian flavor. Anyway, Billy Calder, my buddy that named me Parnelli, called me Parnelli at that time, is here tonight.
That's stuck.
Yeah.
That's good. Thanks for coming, Billy. Now, I also heard a story, and you have to, again, like all stories, there's two sides to it, but that you and your friends used to go out getting cars, old cars, and just go out and just roll them for fun.
Yeah.
And that, I guess there was an empty lot near your house, near your home, and you just go and
Well,
roll these
actually,
cars.
I had an older friend, about 3 years older than I, and he and I were buddies and everything, and we used to go out and buy old junk cars. People have these cars sitting in their driveway, they haven't run for a long time or whatever. We paid 10, 15, 20 bucks for them and stuff like that. We bring them out and we cut them up with a torch and haul the junk to the junkyard and collect the money. We'd make 100 bucks or so. Anyway, I was having fun getting them running before we cut them up, and if I could get one running, I'd take it out there and I made a ramp to start with and get it on 2 wheels, do my thing and run down and just hit a berm and go sideswipe a tree or something like that. There's a big beauty of it. And then one time I had this one that was running pretty good, and so I had flipped it a couple of times, laid it on the side in the field, and so any of my buddies come over there, and one of them said he'd like to try flipping it, laying it over, so he'd run down there and he'd get it up on 2 wheels, almost flip it, and wouldn't quite do it. And I said, give me that thing, I'll show you how to do it. I went down there and dumped that thing, and it rolled about 3 or 4 times. That cured me right there.
There was a tree or something, wasn't there? A tree involved?
Well, there was a tree that we used to sidewipe, and there was a berm right before the tree. And my little brother, Paul, he was a little younger than I, he somehow got in my car one day, and he was going to go out there and sideswipe this tree. And he went down, he hit the berm, come up and hit the tree dead center.
He didn't do that anymore, did he?
No, I didn't do that.
I think that was so much fun. You've always, you've got this reputation of always, you were a tough guy that really, you weren't afraid to stand up for yourself, and yet I've been told, and I don't know if this is correct, I've been told that when you first started racing, I guess fights were pretty much a common thing in those days, before or even after the race, and yet you had like a posse that kind of ran for you, they protected you, they made sure that you made the race, or that is that true?
Well, it helped. I did have a couple of guys that worked in my cars and stuff that went along with me, and we had a couple incidents.
Was that a regular occurrence, getting into fights before the races?
Well, not really.
Was there money involved? Were there bets?
Well, even today you see racers get out and duke it out, or unless they're penalized real tough. But we had a couple fights. Nothing. you know, it's a matter of protecting yourself in a sense too. A lot of times guys were mad at you and you had to defend yourself.
I understand, you know, that had to have been an amazing, in 1967, you go to the Speedway and you show up and they unload this turbine car. And I can't imagine having been a driver that was driving anything else at that time, because you probably just, everybody thought, well, that's it, you know, why are we even bothering? You know, this car looks so different, so sophisticated and what have you. And he qualified on the second row, right?
Yeah, well, the 7 years that I run in India, I was always in the first two rows, and I was on the outside of the second row in that car.
Right. I mean, that thing had to have been, you know, the psych job that he must have done on everybody when they rolled the thing off the trailer. Forget actually driving it, because as I say, it was so unique. But I heard, now on the start, he went from literally the second row, outside the second row, to turn to P1, what, halfway through the first lap?
Yeah. Well, you know, Dan Gurney used to send me sandbags in the mail. But what happened is nobody gave the car any credit for how well it handled. And it was a four-wheel drive car, and it really did work well. And it accelerated really hard across the short straightaways, not on the long straightaways. But about halfway down the straightaway, it would quit accelerating. And these guys during practice, like Gurney and Foyt and Munsters, they would, you know, pass me down at the end of the straightaway, and they, of course, they were running 10 or 15% nitro with their methanol, and at that time we were carrying 75 gallons of fuel. So I figured race day, when they put on 75 gallons of fuel and they had to get the mileage, they couldn't run their nitro, and I figured they probably wouldn't have enough to get by me. Basically, that's what happened. But what happened is, because nobody gave the car any credit the way it handled, I said, when they start the race and they all start jockeying for position in the first turn, I'm just going to drive around the outside in the gray, and, you know, hopefully I'll come out all right. Sure enough, I came out running second behind Mario. Perfect timing. I caught him across the short straightaway, coming out of, I came underneath him coming out of two. And in a half a lap, I took the lead, and he gave me the 1 lap.
I heard he told you were number one.
Well, whatever you want to call it.
What a shame. Two laps from home, and the car broke.
Well, it was about 3.5 laps, and you know, and I criticized myself for all that time, because the car, if I hadn't not have accelerated it coming out of the pits, because it had a lot of torque, it was real hard on the bearing that finally let go. And if I had just taken a little bit easier, we'd obviously won the race hands down. But it was a crying shame. And of course, one of the things that helped me with that particular car, leading the race toward the end, I was thinking winning again wasn't going to be as great as it was the first time. And that helped me make a decision, you know, that if it's not, you know, what are you doing it for? So I made a decision shortly after. I was supposed to drive the 68 turbine, and Spence got killed in one end, and I thought they were a little bit on the dangerous side. And so I made a decision at that time to quit running open cockpit cars, and that's when I went to Trans Am and doing the off-road bar races and things like that.
And then you had Al Sr. in '69, and he raised his ankle, what, the night before the race?
Yeah, well,
not quite the night before, but
yeah, Al and I were out riding motorcycles in the infield, and they have these gullies out there for the drain, water to drain, and Al went and I went into one, and when he went out of the other one, he kind of did a wheelie, and he fell over on him, and he got a compound fracture on his leg, and he couldn't run the 500. And I almost jumped back in the car, and I came really close. And I made a decision at that time that I said, if you get back in, you'll probably still be there. So.
What of the years you drove, say, you were in the Trans Am Series at its height, you've driven, you know, USRC, you know, the King Cobra one at was Laguna Seca, and you know, you've driven all kinds of road racing.